As the old saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And today we're going to learn from a Big 12 rival how the Utah Utes can beat Arizona State.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time tuning in, make sure you like and subscribe. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. My name is JT Wistrcill, excited to be joined on today's show by the host of Locked On Baylor, Cam Stewart. Cam, appreciate you coming on. We're going to get to our matchup later in this episode. Also talk a little contender in the Big 12 conference. But, you know, Utah plays Arizona State next week. We're on a bye. Cam, I feel like this Arizona State team is not as good as they were last year. Yes, they have their Big 12 win so far, but they barely squeaked them out, both of them 27-24. You've played them. I don't feel like this ASU team is what they were last year. What's your take on them?
Cam, you've been victimized by them already this season. It's true. You're right. I think you are right. They're still solid in a lot of areas, but they're certainly not as explosive as they were last year. It's weird to think of a passing offense that has really, for the most part, been a failure to launch, even though they have the best receiver in the conference. Yeah. Allegedly had the second best quarterback in the conference last year. Allegedly. Sam Levitt's solid. He's fine, but there's a lack of explosiveness there. They've had some injuries on the defensive side. It looks like, based on the last 2 weeks, their defense can win them some games. I know, you give up 24 back-to-back weeks, and that's not like anything to really write home about, but they've kept them in games. When you've watched how those games have played out, obviously TCU jumped out to the big lead, and then Arizona State shut them down for the majority of the next 2.5 to 3 quarters. So they're still solid. I think they're a team that can absolutely still make a run at the Big 12 championship. But that said, don't think they have the quality of Tech, for one. I don't know that they have the quality of Iowa State. Learned that. And yeah, I mean, truly. And I think from a Utah standpoint, it's a fascinating matchup of two teams that aren't necessarily like really similar, but are probably in similar spots in the Big 12 right now, of like both these teams can compete for sure. And I wasn't sure about Utah going into the season, just in case people remember that. I wasn't sold on it, but those are two teams that can absolutely be in the picture late in the season that we're just waiting to see a little bit more from, whether that's fair or not.
I think that's absolutely fair. I mean, Utah hasn't beaten a good team yet, right? I mean, and you were supposed to hammer bad teams, so that's positive that we hammered a West Virginia, but I don't think West Virginia is very good. It's the same thing. We'll talk about BYU in a little bit, but my whole thing about BYU is, can they just beat a good team first before I'm ready to say like, oh, they're really good. And ASU has beaten some good teams. I still like Baylor. I like TCU. So I give them credit for finding ways to win, but I can also sit here and say they're outside the top 9 in scoring on offense and defense so far amongst Big 12 teams, right? I mean, their rushing defense and offense has been good, but in the passing game, it really is just Tyson. I mean, no one else with over 200 yards receiving on the season. Levitt's been sacked 12 times already, and we have the nation's leading sack guy in John Henry Daly. I mean, ASU is also 21 for 69 on third down, so they're converting just 30% of those. Their pass defense ain't great. I can't get the play against ASU out of my head that they gave up late in that one. There feels like there's weaknesses there, and I know for Baylor, I'm sure your fans as well, we're feeling like that was an opportunity we had to get a major win, and you just fell short. And this ASU team feels like, as we've been talking about, Cam, one that I just don't feel like they're going to have that magic they had in all those one-score games last year. Part of the reason being there is no Scattaboo there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but they've won back-to-back one-score games.
I know.
They've won back-to-back. But it was a super winnable game against, or for Baylor against Arizona State. Like that, the difference in that game was Baylor turned it over 3 times. 2 of them were fumbles. They turned it over 3 times, and Arizona State did not turn it over. Like that led to 9 points, which of course could have been worse. And you lost the game by 3 at the buzzer. Like that's the kind of stuff it comes down to. It was a razor thin margin of error against Arizona State. It's interesting. People might take this the wrong way when I say this, but if they were to succeed in the Big 12 this year and that get to the conference championship game, it would take a lot of 2022 TCU to get there. That team was phenomenal in that they weren't great at anything.
Yeah.
You know, they were very good at everything, basically, but they weren't great at anything. And you look at, you know, they had a big play receiver, a massive big play receiver in Quentin Johnston. You know, they had a quarterback who got stuff done. He was gritty, he was tough, but he wasn't much of a passer, Max Duggan. And Sam Levitt, who was a good passer last year, certainly looks like it's taken a step back. The yards per completion, the yards per attempt are down. The accuracy's gone up the last 2 weeks, but he's turned the ball over more than he did last year. Like, in their defense, you mentioned it, not top 9 in scoring, getting the job done the last couple of weeks. Like, that's what TCU was in 2022. They just did it at a remarkable clip. Like, they just kept, and it was kind of crazy to see. So, yeah, that's where I'm at on Arizona State. This might not be the year to have your quarterback take a step back in the Big 12. Like, you know, especially with all these teams whose quarterbacks or quarterback situations have taken a step forward. You think about Tech, you know, Baylor had, I thought, the second best quarterback in the conference last year. You stepped up and got in a better situation there. Utah's gotten a better situation there. Cincinnati has gotten a better situation there. Sneaky Cincinnati. Iowa State had a good quarterback situation anyway, and it's still solid. So I don't know if this is the year that your quarterback can take a step back and you still win the conference. You know what I mean?
1000%. I'm Cam. I'm going to ask you real quick, because off the top of my head, like, Sam Levitt has not probably been a top 5 quarterback in this conference right now. Is he a top 8? Like, I mean, where does Sam Levitt rank right now? Who was a guy coming into the year? I saw some people saying he was a top 5 quarterback in the country, and it feels like he's far from that right now.
He is a rich man's Jackson Arnold.
Yeah.
Okay. He can, I almost said Jackson Arnold with a better receiver, but that's not true. Jackson Arnold has 2 elite receivers. But he's a better passer than Jackson Arnold, but it's not overwhelming. And you look at some of the guys who have come out of the woodworks and some of the guys who, like I mentioned, got better from last year. It's like, would you take Sam Levitt over Sawyer Robertson? No. Even though he beat him, you wouldn't take him over Josh Hoover. I don't think you'd take him over Brendan Sorsby at this point. I don't think you'd take him over either Tech quarterback. And
how dare you bring up both?
Bofa. And, you know, over Jalen Daniels, you know, then we're talking about probably more his level. And that's not even that bad an insult. You know, he might be a top 5 quarterback in other leagues. Just in this one, not right now.
Yeah.
No. Better than Dampier? I don't know. That's an interesting debate. That's an interesting debate. But I would say, you know, those guys and Jalen Daniels, they're probably outside of the top 5. The passing numbers, Rocco Beck's a little bit better. But you've got some elite quarterbacks in this league, and he's not one of them right now, which, to your point, was, I think, a shock to a lot of people.
This was an all-time, like, bad preseason rankings on quarterbacks, like, for across college football that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik, Nussmeier. Like, the only one I can think of is Carson Beck. Because, I mean, Arch, I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah, Arch, Lagway.
Lagway is cool.
Lenore Sellers has been hurt and has come back. But, like, you're right, dude. It was
all-time bad.
It was all-time bad. And then some of us were screaming into the void about Sawyer Robertson. And through 5 weeks, he's leading the nation in passing yards and touchdowns. So I also said Dampier was going to suck. And I've been proven wrong.
You had the DeQuan Finn. You and Drake were all.
I was just. I thought I was doing a good thing, JT. I was like, I just want to warn you guys, like, don't get your hopes up here. And, you know, has he been, like, elite? No, but certainly better than what DeQuan Finn was. So got to give him that so far. Yeah,
and he's got a good test coming up in ASU. And we've talked ASU, we've talked a little Utah, we're going to talk some BYU. Like, who are the pretenders and contenders in the Big 12 conference? We're breaking it down in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Moving the game forward. That's what Mazda does. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. These are the moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move cultures, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward was, how about JJ Buchanan? Last week against West Virginia, Devin Dampier just threw it up to him, and he goes down and gets it. Absolutely mosses the defender on the fade. That was a moment where he came up big, and with Mazda, you can come up big too. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. Just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. You can move and be moved with Mazda. Head over and check out Mazda's inventory today. Move or be moved with Mazda. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Utah Utes, I'm going to go Devin Dampier. A lot of doubters and questions after he did not play a great game against Texas Tech, and he bounces back and was phenomenal against what had been a solid West Virginia defense. He delivered in a big way. When the pressure was in his face, no hesitation, no delay. He was able to step up and deliver. And his performance wasn't a fluke. He started a streak, Devin Dampier did. And you can start a streak too, because if you go over right now, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. This promo ends November 18th. You can head over and start your streak with DoorDash today. Cam Stewart back here with me. Cam, pretenders or contenders in the Big 12 conference? And what I consider a contender is like, hey, do you have a chance to win the Big 12? Let's start with, really quick, we both agree that Tech and Iowa State are pretty clear contenders, correct?
Yes, they would be my top two, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
1,000% agree. I actually would have Tech in their own stratosphere right now. Would you have Tech in their own stratosphere?
Yeah. I mean, and I guess that's a little unfair to Iowa State just because the schedule recently has not been very tough. First couple of wins were pretty big. But no, from what we've seen for Tech in terms of the eye test and because of who they played, I think they're alone at the top. Yeah, I think there's a chasm.
And my next statement kind of depends on Texas Tech being in the stratosphere of their own, because I consider the Utah Utes to be a conference contender. And even, the game was not 34-10. If you watch the game, Utah Tech, start to finish, it's not a 34-10 game. But at the end of the day, that's what the score ends at. You end up getting blown out. I still believe Utah is a contender in this conference to make the Big 12 title game. They got some work to do to beat Tech, but I would call Utah a contender right now. How do you feel about the Utes?
I'll just say this, man. If you have a top 20 defense in America, you're a contender. Okay. And certainly Utah fits that bill through most of the metrics. Now, I delay on it because Houston fits that bill in some of the metrics. And I think Houston's good. I just don't think they're like a conference contender. I don't think they're going to, I think you'd have to win 10 games to do that. Maybe 9, you can get away with it like last year. But if you're top 20, in defense specifically, because I'm talking about a team, I talk about a team every day that's top 20 in offense and very much the opposite defensively. And that feels like it can lose you more games than win it. So yes, I think Utah is a legit contender. I think there's a legit shot there for sure.
Yeah. And I feel the same way.
I think I have like 5.
I got a few too. I look at Utah and I say really talented offensive line, still a top 10 unit in the country, even if they're like this all talk of, it's the best offensive line in the country. I think Tech slammed the door in their face on that take. You have a dynamic quarterback who is at least an improvement over what you had last year. Clearly, you have tight ends and one receiver who's really emerged. So you have somewhat of a passing game. It's not as bad as it's been years past. And you just mentioned how elite the defense has been, including a guy earlier. We talked about John Henry Daly, who leads the nation in sacks. I feel like there's a recipe there for Utah to be a contender. There is a recipe for this next team to be a contender, but I'm not going to call them one. Cam, you and I have both had interesting off seasons with this team. It's the BYU Cougars. I'm not calling BYU a contender. Jake had a really interesting stat, Jake Hatch, on our squad show about, hey, this BYU team, 4-0 with a freshman quarterback. Look at all the things that Bear's done. The schedule's been a joke. I'm sorry. It's just not filled with any good team. Like when you're going to talk about, none of these other quarterbacks have done that, that's because most teams try to play someone in their non-conference slate. And yes, BYU cannot help it that Stanford is awful and that I feel like Colorado was clearly taking a step back. Yeah. But I can't call BYU a contender, especially off a shaky performance in Boulder with a true freshman at quarterback, when I still have major questions about that team. I don't think they're a contender right now. What do you think about them?
Yeah, dude, I'd love to argue with you. Like, I'd love to go against you on this one, but I just, BYU is in such this weird spot right now of like, look, they've done what they've needed to do. They've beaten the teams in front of them, but does that mean they're past the eye test and you think they can be a legit contender? No, it's not, as we agree on here. Like, I sound like a broken record, but again, what we talked about earlier with all the quarterbacks in this conference, the elite quarterback play, for a guy who wears number 47 and can't throw for 200 yards, like I can't just be like, yeah, they're in. Like I think there's going to be some weeks where they go up against, and the schedule itself is actually pretty easy. So I would need to double check it, but I know they play Hoover at TCU. Like there are going to be some weeks where they're just overpowered by a good quarterback or a good scheme. And they get 24 points against them, which is not a terrible day at the office for your defense. And that's enough to win. You win at 24-17 or something like that. Kind of like how BYU was winning games last year. But yeah, that game with Colorado was tight. I don't think Colorado's very good at all.
No.
They have not done anything this year to prove to me that they're even somewhat good. They could end up sneaky being one of the bottom teams in this conference with West Virginia and Oklahoma State. So yeah, I can't call them a contender right now. I just can't. And I don't know when that week comes where BYU beats someone, 17-13. And I'm like, yeah, that's there. Here they are. Like, I don't think they are. I would consider them a pretender.
It's the most important position in the sport. They lost their guy from last season, and you're in a conference that is loaded at that spot. I don't think it's bad to lower the ceiling and then say, yeah, most important positions in the sport, you got worse. I have to wait and see till you're a contender, until you beat a good team. That's my biggest thing with them.
How many Big 12 games do you go into and you're doing basically what we just did of like, oh man, they're evenly matched, but their quarterback's a little better than ours, or our quarterback's hotter, or he's got more weapons to go to. Like it sometimes it really does come down to that. I know BYU fans are like, there's so much more to the game, and there is, and BYU is good at a lot of the other things, but it's just, I don't think they can overcome that this year.
Yeah, when you're one-dimensional, not fun. I mean, Utah last year, their rushing attack was okay. They had 4 rushing touchdowns because everyone, when they got in the red zones, was load the box. It's like, you're not going to, because your passing game is not a threat. So you need somewhat of a threat there. And there are still other things about this BYU team outside of quarterback that I think it's fair to question. We've talked about ASU a lot already. I agree with what you said earlier, Cam, about, hey, this team is still probably going to be up there for finishing at the top of this conference. They have 2 impressive wins. I just don't feel like the luck is on their side like last year, as I mentioned, but they are still clearly a contender for a lot of the things they still do have going for them. And you feel the same way you said, right?
I do. Yeah. I don't know. Again, like that kind of defense, I don't know if it's going to be as good as what Tex is right now. And so that's kind of the maybe unfair, but that's the benchmark if we're talking about winning a Big 12 championship. And I don't think they have it there. I don't think they have enough of a passing attack either. It's kind of a weird in between of like the quarterback is good enough, their top receiver is good enough, but they don't pass the ball well enough. So I would have them in that top 4 or 5 for sure. I think they've earned their spot there. And if they have another win, like they did the last couple of weeks, if they do that to Utah, then we're talking about, well, something may be brewing here. But I just don't have them in that highest echelon, but still absolutely in the picture.
Guess the score the last time ASU came to Utah. We lost them last year, but guess the score in 23 when Arizona State came to Utah, Cam.
63-21, the mighty Utes.
55-3.
I was close. Yeah. I was close. All right. I could have done the 17-13, but I also could have remembered that because we were all conference buddies still. So,
that's right. Well, and we played you guys that year.
Yes.
That's right. That was the weird Sawyer Robertson, his first game.
Yes. Yeah, that was, you're right. That is a wild piece. That was his first start. You wouldn't know it because that game was an absolute rock fight.
Yes,
you wouldn't know that the best passer in the conference was making his debut in that game. But yeah, that was a long time ago, man. I tried to block most of the 2023 football season completely from my brain. So
we applied that to 24. That's how Utah fans. We moved it up a year. But how is this Baylor team? And also, there's a few more contenders we still got to go through. We're wrapping this one up in one moment. But first, today's show is brought to you by our friends at Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's the most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructor, this training regimen, Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performances. I love how Peloton IQ systems offer real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer, smarter, and helping you get even more out of it. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Once again, you can check out the Peloton cross-training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. The only other team, Cam, that I would have in my contender personally is I'd have TCU there too. I think TCU is good. I like Hoover. They should not have lost that game last week in a lot of ways. I felt like they let it slip through their fingers. So I like TCU. And then like for the best of the rest, like I don't consider Houston. Houston can change that this week, but you don't go on the road and stink it up against Oregon State and barely squeak it out against a team that steamrolled the team you're about to play this week and me say you're a contender. Kansas, I still think it was a disappointing loss to Cincinnati. I want to see more from Cincinnati. I like what they did, but I want to see more to say contender because I don't think they can hang their hat on like Utah is their offensive line. That's where I think that that's why I think Utah's a contender. I'm not there yet with Cincinnati. I need to see a little bit more from them.
Cincy's sneaky, man.
They are sneaky. Yeah. But those are it for my contenders. Do you have anyone else in your contender category? And what do you think of TCU?
Yeah, I mean, TCU, I would put there. I'm trying to think of like how many I've said can be contenders. I'd probably cap it at like 6, which is crazy because any other league it would be 2.
We came into the year thinking it could be 8 to 10.
I mean, yeah, seriously. And I don't think.
And then Kansas State.
Yeah, true. And they're coming into form, man. We got to see them tomorrow. But TCU, I think their defense is better than Baylor's. But other than that, I think those teams are pretty dang similar. And we're going to see that next week, by the way. Pretty dang similar. So if I'm putting TCU there, I'm still having Baylor on the outside as well. I think both those teams have enough question marks. I don't feel great about them actually winning the Big 12, but certainly have good enough units, quarterbacks, coaches, maybe, to compete in this conference. I do like Cincinnati is so interesting to me.
Very. Because
Brendan Sorsby could be for real.
Yeah.
Like he could be the real deal. And this weekend is fascinating. They got Iowa State going up there. It's an 11 a.m. Central Time on the road for Iowa State. That line is moved to plus 1.5 for Iowa State because they've had a bunch of guys get hurt. And that might not be sustainable if you beat a team that's pretty shorthanded, but it could give you all kinds of confidence, man, if you knock them off a top 15 team. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when Oklahoma would lose to Kansas State.
Oh,
like just every other year they would lose to Kansas State. And Kansas State was never great, but you were always like, yeah, they could pull it off. Sure. It's, Kansas State's always solid. Like if Cincinnati does that, then them and Houston become the 2 most fascinating teams in the conference to me because they're like, oh man, if a couple bounces go their way, they could absolutely be in the picture. But by that same token, you're like better than I thought, but not quite good enough there. So yeah, that probably does it for me for contenders. If I'm doing 6, like let's play that out. Obviously, I'd put Tech, I'd put Iowa State, I would put Arizona State, TCU, Baylor. That's 5.
Utah. What'd you say?
And then that's what I'm coming down to. I'm coming down to Utah. I think Utah's better than Houston.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
For now. I mean, if Houston beats Tech, JT, all bets are off. All bets are off.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because then you got crap after that, right? After that Utah, that kind of debatable's with Utah and then Cincinnati, Kansas. I just don't know with them. Kansas State getting healthier. They could be back in the picture here soon. The disastrous start. But then you're talking about West Virginia and Arizona,
Colorado,
and obviously Oklahoma State's awful. BYU is obviously somewhere more up there where we just don't trust them. So yeah, Utah would be my 6th one. How about that?
I'll take it. There we go.
My 6th one. That's not just lip service. I think if I thought it through and thought it out, it might come down to, Utah and Houston. I'd probably pick Utah.
Yeah, I think right now that I feel like they've looked more impressive just in the style they've won. Like I know that Houston took care of business against Colorado. I don't think that Colorado team's very good. I'm more impressed with Utah.
Win for them. That's a good win for them.
It is.
It's not great for like putting you in the top 5 of the conference, but it is a good win for them and for Willie Fritz.
And by the time you and I are back on the air on Monday, we'll be calling it a good loss for them when they lose to Tech. because I think that is
Maybe.
what's going to happen. Maybe. And I will eat all the crow next week on the squad show because Parker will be very, very fired up if that is the case.
Texas Tech Hail Mary to win the game.
Oh my gosh.
You heard it here first.
That would be okay. Wow. You think it's going to be that close?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, wow.
No, I don't think it will be that close. Actually, I think Tech will win by 10. But I think Houston will really give them a game. I do.
Yeah,
and it's crazy. I don't think I've ever said this. I don't think I've ever said this in the history of me being on God's green earth. I think Tech will win that game on defense.
Yeah.
How about that, JT?
That's a good
How
point.
about that for a prediction? Obviously, Houston is a great defense themselves, but I think they'll mess with Connor Wegman defensively, and that's what's going to win the game.
Well, you have 10 points going into the fourth against a Utah team. In a lot of ways, their defense won them the game. Their D line, what they did, that is a special collection up front for their D line.
Heights, never said that about Tech.
Never. Like they are dangerous. And unfortunately, defense winning games is not something we can say about the Baylor Bears camp so far this season. But I actually would have Baylor in my contenders list. I like this offense still. I think they could still do some things because of that offense, especially. I'm still not like ready to give up on Dave Aranda on the defensive side of the ball and just say this team can't figure anything out yet. What do you think of Baylor's start so far of the year? Because we're going to see you guys November 15th, so a little over a month away. But what do you make of the start the Baylor Bears are off to?
It's not the end of the world, but I think it has been a little disappointing. When you saw what the schedule was to start the year and someone told you 3-2 going into Kansas State, I think most of us would be okay with that. But just the way it played out, it's really that Arizona State game. Like they had every chance in the world to win.
Not the Auburn game?
The Auburn one is super frustrating for another reason, right? Like you just couldn't stop them at all. Like you couldn't stop the run whatsoever. And that's the most infuriating kind of football game there is, right? But the Arizona State one was frustrating in a different way of that, like, it just really came down to turnovers, right? Your defense did not play horribly, but did not play great. Your offense did not play great, but did not play horribly. You just turned the ball over a couple of times and you didn't force any. Like it was such a bummer, man. And that's where I was like, man, it's just like, if it's not one thing, it's the other. Like, it's just not complementary. It's not coming together. But Baylor's got a legit top 20 offense in college football. They've got a legit top 5 quarterback in college football. Ooh. And that's me giving other quarterbacks a chance, JT, okay? Because I think he's the best quarterback in college football. They've got a litany of receivers. Like, everything on that side of the ball looks fantastic. But the defense is horrible. I mean, it just has not come together. Now, I'll give them this. I'll throw them a bone here. When they went on that winning streak after starting 2-4 last year, it was because of the offense and the offensive line fully coming together. But the defense did get better, like week after week. They were never great, and they didn't play the greatest offenses in the world outside of TCU, I would say. But it did get better. So if you get up to a league average defense with a top 20 offense, you can be in the Big 12 championship game. I'm not predicting it necessarily, but if you get in the top half of the league in the defensive stats, especially scoring defense, then you can be in Arlington. So it's just every week feels like a bit of a measuring stick. Yeah. You know, outside of Oklahoma State, which they didn't play well against them defensively and still won by 18. So, but like, you know, Arizona State felt like such a barometer. And now this week it's like, okay, you know, a team at home that you're playing at home that's really hot coming in terms of like how they feel about themselves. They just won a conference game by 2 touchdowns. Whoop, whoop. UCF didn't even mention them at any point in that contenders pretenders discussion. And they're getting healthy, you know, Kansas State is, and they can hurt you because they have a mobile quarterback. And Baylor struggled with that this year. So it's like every week's a test, and then it's TCU, and that's the best Big 12 team you faced so far. And, you know, so every week kind of becomes a test for this Baylor team. But if I had to pick, I don't think they have the defense to get to Arlington. I just don't.
Yeah, that's the tough part. Is like I said, both sides of the ball. That's where if you did a blind resume test of Dante Moore and Sawyer Robertson, because Dante Moore seems to be getting all the Heisman love right now, you would take Sawyer's resume like over what Dante has done.
I mean, I would take it over like 2014 Tom Brady's resume. But like, yeah, if you're talking about everyone else, then yeah, you look at that. But seriously, it is weird that he's still not getting that Heisman hype. Now, part of it is because he plays for a program that
you have to
will
win,
not talk to the media and will not win 11 games, so it's tough to campaign. I'm campaigning, but
You're trying.
I'm on the picket line.
That's why you're on Locked On Utes, right? Anybody can get the votes.
That was JT did trick me into this by saying I could give a Sawyer for Heisman plug. So I decided to join the program. Yeah.
Oh, well, you're very kind for joining the program, my friend. Please let everyone know where they can find you at.
Yeah, man. I can't wait for that game, by the way, November the 15th. Yeah, so you can find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast 5 days a week, on Twitter as well, at Locked On Baylor. We troll quite a bit there. And every once in a while, I'll do some segment about how I'm sick of Utah fans. And so that's where you guys can find me and get in the comment section and let me know that you're all still here. But that should be a fun one in a couple of weeks. We'll call it weeks at this point.
Yeah, a couple weeks away. College football season well underway. You got a big one this weekend, my friend. So once again, appreciate you coming on, Cam.
Yes, anytime, JT. Thanks for having me.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. A reminder for you guys, too, we have something really exciting going on with one of our Locked On colleagues. Drake Toll is hosting Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local expert college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. That's going to do it for our show today. Enjoy the bye weekend, everyone, and we'll be back next week talking about Utes versus ASU on Locked On Utes. Hope you'll join us then.